We in Reform UK are in very good heart this morning. Our judicial review will not be heard in the High Court on Thursday of this week because the government have given in, admitted what they did in trying to cancel elections, and in some cases with the connivance of the Conservative Party for a second year in a row, and now 4.6 million voters that would have been denied the right to vote, despite still paying their council tax, will get the right to vote on the 7th of May. And if you think about it, this was the Labour Party, the Conservatives and the Lib Dems in Cheltenham trying to deny people the vote. And we're the party that stands up for democracy, accountability, and I view yesterday as being a really, really big win. A big win, not just for us, but a big win for democracy, something that those that went before us actually fought to defend the very principle of. So this morning, we're quite proud of ourselves. Now, at the time of the general election, which seems a long time ago, I said that what we would do, we would establish a toehold in Parliament in that short campaign, and we would then move on to become the opposition party in this country to the Labour government. And whilst it may be true that the Conservative Party have more MPs in Westminster than we do, although our numbers are growing quite steadily, there is no question, given that we've now led for the last 200 opinion polls in a row, given that our average lead is between 9 and 10%, that in the country we are the voice of opposition to this government. And so it's time for the party to take the next step. Too often, the criticism over the last 20 months has been that we're a one-man band, to which I generally respond by saying, well, it's better than being a no-man band. But the time has come to broaden the party, to put in place people in shadow positions, and that process begins today, just begins today, with 4 important announcements. There are 3 things really that we're looking for when it comes to appointing people to positions to speak officially on behalf of the party. 1 is the youthful energy and enthusiasm that reformers who've never been in government before have. The second thing we're looking for is genuine experience, because people like Richard Tice and myself, we've not been in number 10, we've never been on the front line. We need people who've been there and who know how it works, or perhaps more accurately, how and why it doesn't work. And then we'll be looking, and we started this process last year, and it's going on today. We then need people who are genuine experts in their area to take junior ministerial positions, because frankly, the lack of real-world experience in government is being felt by every business in the land. So today's the first step on that journey, and I want to begin by inviting onto the stage my loyal deputy of the party, Richard Tice, and the man who, if we win the next general election, will be the Deputy Prime Minister, and who is going to take on a very, very important role. The department will be called Business, Trade and Energy. So it's a new super economics and business department, in many ways modelled on what the Germans did after World War II. This was their approach to it, and I'm not pretending we can produce the Wunderschaft overnight, but perhaps we can actually bring back to the world of business and energy somebody at the top of this department who's done well himself in the real world. So please welcome to the stage our head of BTE, Richard Tice.
And thank you, Nigel, indeed. I just want you to imagine an economy that's growing at 2.5 to 3.5, sometimes 4%, year in, year out. That's what we had in the 80s and 90s. But sadly, anybody under the age of about 40 to 45 doesn't know what that feels like. That's where we've got to get back to. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we need a new super department covering business, trade, energy, including housing, with a total focus on growth and prosperity. And it makes complete sense that such a department is led by someone with a successful track record in business, who's made hundreds of millions for shareholders, investors, and lenders alike, and who brings together a team of successful business people in order to ensure that we create the right conditions to achieve those sort of levels of growth. For example, people who understand what it is to have smart and safe regulations, but to get rid of what I call the daft, the dither, and delaying regulations. Someone who understands that to be a rich nation, you have to have cheap energy, as we had in the 1980s and the 1990s. And of course, that means using the joy of our very valuable energy treasure, oil and gas, offshore, onshore, and having the courage to get rid of the madness of what we've politely coined net stupid zero, which has been so damaging to our industrial competitiveness and so expensive for everybody at home. And if we achieve those things, then we can re-industrialize Britain, we can re-energize Britain, we can renew Britain, and yes, we can rebuild Britain. And these are absolutely essential to create growth. But there's another thing that we've never had before, and that is a proper, serious, British sovereign wealth fund. And I'm going to be talking this time next week in the Midlands in great detail about this. A sovereign wealth fund that backs British companies, that buys and promotes British products, and that helps ensure that we build hundreds of thousands of affordable homes in our towns, our rural areas, and our cities. This is how we make real progress. And a sovereign wealth fund as part of this department that understands about strategic national assets. Things, for example, like the ability to make primary steel, British steel, absolutely essential, that backs high-tech, defense tech, and backs critical tech. We haven't had this joined up, coordinated, strategic thinking across these areas for decades. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we've been in trouble, why growth has collapsed to the levels where, actually per person, as we speak, we're now in recession. So what we need is the best vision, the best people, and the best plans. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we have in Reform UK. The truth is, our economy needs reform, and yes, it's very simple. Britain needs reform. Thank you very much.
Richard, thank you very much indeed. Now, next up is somebody who joined us recently. I suspect he might have a little less time now to do all his videos because he's taking on a very big job. I do hope that when I announce him, he's actually going to be here, which would make a nice change. But taking on the very responsible and important role of Shadow Chancellor is Robert Jenrick.
Well, thank you, Nigel, and I didn't keep you waiting this time. Look, we all know that our economy isn't working. And why is that? Well, we've had decades of mismanagement. But this Labour government is in a league of its own. Its record is tantamount to vandalism. It promised stability. It's delivered chaos. It promised to lower bills, but they've kept on rising over and over again. Why? Well, in part, because of its crazy energy policies. They said that they wouldn't increase taxes. Well, they've increased taxes over and over again. £60 billion of tax rises to fund their waste. And because they haven't got the courage to tackle our ballooning welfare bill. Businesses are fighting for survival right now. Factories are closing. Investors are leaving the country. And people are suffering. Everyone in the country feels hard up right now. People are working all hours, and then they get to the weekend, and they've got nothing left. The normal expectations of life, they feel like luxuries right now. People just want to get on. They want to buy a nicer house, to buy a car, buy a second car, go on holiday. They want to take their kids out for a meal at the end of the week, on the weekend. But for so many people across our country, these things feel out of reach at the moment. So Nigel, thank you for giving me the opportunity to oppose the wrecking ball that is Rachel Reeves and this Labour government. And above all, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak up, to be a voice for the millions of people who are being failed by this Labour government right now. We are going to put together the most comprehensive plan of any political party in this country to fix Britain's broken economy. I'm going to work with you, Nigel, with Richard, with Zia, with people with deep experience of building successful businesses, people the like of which there is no one in the current cabinet to put that plan together. It will be a plan that restores stability to our economy, a plan that cuts waste, that brings down the benefits bill, that ensures that we can lower taxes and cut bills, that brings back good jobs to this country once again. Nigel and I are going to be saying more about this tomorrow, but I'll just end by saying this. Together, we are going to build an economy that serves alarm clock Britain. The people who got up early this morning to go to work, to look after their family, the people who want a hand up, not a hand out. People who just want to get on in life, who want to feel better off. And there's no shame in that. People like my dad, Bill, who left school at 16, became an apprentice, set up a small business. People like those I grew up around in Wolverhampton and represent now in North Nottinghamshire. Decent, hard-working, family-oriented, community-oriented, patriotic Brits who just want to get on. We're going to ensure that you can keep more of your money, that the state stops taking your money and wasting it, spraying it around without any regard for how hard you worked to earn it and your own interests. More than any party, we are going to take care with your money. We're going to look after your money as you would. And we're going to work hard every single day between now and the general election and thereafter, if we're lucky enough to be entrusted with leading this country forwards, to earn your trust and confidence. We're never going to forget where we came from or who we're in politics for. We're in politics for you, for your family, for your future, and for this great country. Britain's economy is broken, but it can and it will be fixed with reform. Thank you.
Thank you. Robert, thank you very much. And Robert's first big press conference will be tomorrow at 11 o'clock here in central London. Next up is somebody who is relatively new to politics. He's only really been in the game for just over 20 months, but he's made a massive impression already, a very powerful public debater and television performer. And Zia Youssef will take on the role of Shadow Home Secretary with, of course, particular reference to that one issue, above all, that has broken the trust of the British public, with manifesto after manifesto just not telling the truth. I'm talking, of course, about both legal and illegal immigration. Please welcome Zia Youssef.
Hi everyone, good morning. So I'm going to open with a statistic. 1 in every 25 people wandering around in Britain today arrived in the last 5 years. 1 in every 25 people in Britain today arrived in the last 5 years. Britain has been overwhelmed by immigration, both legal and illegal. Look, I'm the son of immigrants myself. And my parents, between them, have given almost half a century of service to our NHS. I'm really proud of them. So no one knows better than I the invaluable contribution migrants can make to this great country. But we have to be honest. The sheer scale of immigration over the last 3 decades has broken Britain. More people have turned up on our beaches uninvited in the last 7 years than stormed the beaches of Normandy on D-Day. And those people, instead of being detained and deported, have been given free accommodation, free meals, free access to healthcare, free taxis, free leisure activities, at the expense of the British people, to the tune of tens of billions of pounds every single year. And that's just illegal immigration. If we talk about legal immigration, just since 2010, the equivalent of the populations of Edinburgh, Leeds, Sheffield, Nottingham, Stoke, Bristol, and Cardiff have been added to our populations. So is it any wonder why it's so difficult to get a GP appointment? Why everyone feels unsafe because violent criminals are let out of jail because of overcrowding? We don't have enough prison places. Why tens of thousands of people, to our eternal shame as a country, are forced to wait more than 2 days in accident and emergency. Just imagine that. And by the way, nobody voted for this. In fact, they voted expressly in the opposite way. Everything I just described could credibly be described as the most profound betrayal of the British electorate in history. The Tories said that they would cut net immigration to the tens of thousands, that is a direct quote, in 4 consecutive manifestos. And what did they deliver? They delivered 12 million people migrated into this country in their 14 years, 6.5 million people net. And did they build enough infrastructure? I'll let you be the judge of that. They built a grand total of 411 net new prison places, not 411,000, 411. And to their eternal shame, they left the country with fewer hospital beds. The number of British people who have literally died as a result of the appalling betrayal on immigration in this country is actually unquantifiable. And I also want to talk about the fact that we are about to feel the aftershocks of some of those decisions. Because the Boris wave, what has become known as the Boris wave, is only about to hit the books in terms of the Treasury. So that's north of 3 million people that arrived in about 3 years against the wishes of the British people. In fact, the mandate was get Brexit done, secure our borders, reduce immigration. Instead, Boris, quote, took back control, threw open our borders. And as a result of that, those 3 million people, of those half of whom have never worked, will never work, almost 80% of them came in on non-work visas. Imagine that. This is a deliberate act. And as a result of all of that, the most conservative estimates assume that as they are granted indefinite leave to remain in the coming months and years, that's going to cost the British taxpayer hundreds of billions of pounds. So I want to be crystal clear. If Reform win the next general election and Nigel's our Prime Minister as Home Secretary, number one, we will stop the boats. Number two, we will enact our plan that we've already published, Operation Restoring Justice. We will not just leave the ECHR, we will derogate from every international treaty that would otherwise then be used to frustrate and upend deportations. We will take on the serious and real threat that has been neglected of radical Islam in this country and ensure that if you come to this country with the goal of upending and usurping our laws, you will be deported forcibly. If you are in this country illegally right now and you are watching this, I want to be crystal clear. As Reform's Home Secretary, I will ensure that you are deported from these lands. A Reform government will ensure that we right the wrongs of manifold governments in recent decades. Look, this is a great country, a country full of decent, hard-working, lovely people with the warmest hearts anywhere in the world. And the reason I know that is because my mum would tell me that over the dinner table for decades, how lovely the people here are in this great country who welcomed my parents, for which I'm so grateful. But I will not allow, and a Reform government and Nigel will not allow, that goodwill to be taken advantage of. And for decades now, those lovely people of Britain have been betrayed by a political class that have failed in their most basic duty. We will not fail in that duty. We will uphold that duty. We will stop the boats. We will secure our borders. We will deport people who are in this country illegally. We will keep British people safe. And as a result of that, a Reform government with Nigel Farage as our Prime Minister will make Britain poised, proud, prosperous, and powerful. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Zia, thank you very much. Well, he couldn't have been much clearer than that, could he, really? Next up, the fourth appointment of today, and by the way, this is by no means the end of the process, it's just the beginning of the process. But fourth up today is somebody whose absolute determination in politics has always been very, very clear. And she is itching to get on with this brief, because I think that millions of parents all over this country are in a state of despair about what their children are being taught at school, about far too many young people being sent to university and being lumbered with heavy debts without any benefit to them in the workplace. And not only will Suella Braverman take on education and skills, something that's been ignored for too long, but she will also take on equalities under this brief, which of course means the world of DEI. And I know she's itching to get on with it. Suella.
Good morning. I'm deeply honoured to have been asked by Nigel Farage to be Reform UK's spokesman for education, skills and equalities. Now, what we teach our children, and indeed how we teach them, has a profound effect on the destiny of our country. I've been passionate about education myself for years because education changed my life. And frankly, I wouldn't be standing here today were it not for the wonderful teachers, wonderful schools, and brilliant education that I was so lucky to receive. Yet it is clear today that in too many respects, we are getting it wrong in our schools. Across our schools, a quiet crisis has taken hold. Violence and disorder have eroded the authority of teachers. Too many teachers now face the fear of intimidation and assault in the classroom. Discipline, once the backbone of education has been weakened in the name of progressive ideology. At the same time, the foundations of knowledge, literacy, and numeracy have been undermined by this Labour government. Changes to Ofsted, a dumbed-down curriculum, are all replacing excellence with mediocrity. In some classrooms, children are taught to view Britain with shame rather than pride, to focus on grievance rather than gratitude. They're taught more about gender ideology than biological fact. This is not education as it should be. I know what is possible because I've seen it with my own eyes. Years before I was even a member of Parliament, I helped to establish one of the first free schools in the country, a school that went later on to become one of the best schools in the country, the Michaela Community School in my hometown of Wembley, where I served as chairman of governors. Guided by a traditional curriculum, firm discipline, and the unshakable belief in every child's potential, Michaela Community School has transformed thousands of lives, not by accident, but as a product of clarity, courage, and conviction. And we must now summon the will to replicate that success around the country. That is why a reform government will restore freedom to our schools and restore authority to our teachers to uphold order, standards, and respect. It's why a reform government will deliver a patriotic, balanced curriculum that fosters a love of our great country. And it's why a reform government will bring an end to the transgender chaos in the classroom. Social and gender transitioning will be absolutely banned in all schools, no ifs, no buts. Meanwhile, too many of our universities are failing our young people. Today, 700,000 graduates are unemployed, each of them carrying, on average, £50,000 worth of student debt. The truth is that too many of our young people have been sold a lie about university, wasting 3 years of their lives on Mickey Mouse courses, all while we have a chronic shortage of nurses, builders, and care workers. The system is broken. So I tell you what we need. Instead of Tony Blair's 50% of young people going to university, this is what we need. We need Nigel Farage's 50% of young people going into the trades. That's what will produce the next generation of carpenters, electricians, and technicians that our country is crying out for, all to work in a thriving manufacturing sector. Now, these are not lesser callings. These are noble professions. And these will be the people who rebuild Britain. They won't just rebuild our infrastructure. They will rebuild our confidence and our national self-belief. And to those universities that have descended into hotbeds of cancel culture, anti-Semitism, and which survive really thanks to the cash of foreign students, and keep conning young people into worthless degrees, reform is putting you on notice. And finally, in my equalities brief, let me say this. The Britain that I love is being ripped apart by diversity, equality, and inclusion. Because the truth is that DEI has become less about diversity and more about conforming to left-wing ideology. Less about equality and more about prejudice against white people. Less about inclusion and more about exclusion of those who dare to challenge the dogma. It's why was it acceptable for white Christian men to be discriminated against by the Sentencing Council? Why did nobody do anything for years when the police turned a blind eye when thousands of white working-class girls were being systematically raped by largely Pakistani Muslim grooming gangs? And why does no one in this government seem to care that it's white working-class boys who have the worst educational outcomes in our country today? So do you know what a reform government will do? Well, on day one, we will get rid of the Equalities Department. We will scrap the Equalities Minister. Yeah, I'm doing myself out of the job. And we will repeal the Equality Act, because we are going to work to build a country defined by meritocracy, not tokenism, personal responsibility, not victimhood, excellence, not mediocrity, and unity, not division. So, let's build a country where every young person, regardless of where they come from, regardless of the color of their skin, their religion, what their parents did, where every young person can rise as far as their talents and efforts can carry them. That's the country I love, and that is the country we can build together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, again, there was no room for any confusion there, was there? What you're seeing today is just a start, but a very important start, and 4 very competent, capable people who will take on these areas, do their own press events, travel around the United Kingdom, and you'll be seeing a lot more of all of them over the course of the coming days, weeks and months, and who knows, maybe a little bit less of me. We're certain that Britain is broken and that Britain needs reform. We're deadly serious about what we're doing. We are now the opposition to the Labour government, and we intend to campaign in even more seats than we thought this time yesterday as May the 7th approaches, which is our next big, very big landmark moment.